Hey everybody, and welcome to my 2023 Chairman's Choice Awards. So every year I make a video like this talking about my favourite games in a bunch of different categories. Some really good winners this year and some really tight competition because there's some fantastic games that missed out on those awards. So congratulations to all of these games and their designers, artists, production companies, etc. You've done a fantastic job here. Now, before I get into the rewards, I want to give a shout out to the show sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer. And if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get a 5% off your first order. Okay, so I'm going to go through these awards in no particular order, and I'm not going to spend too much time talking about them, just some very brief comments, because I want it to be a relatively quick video. So the first category is going to be Family Weight Game of the Year, or Family Game of the Year. And what I mean by this, these are kind of games I could see in the homes of non-gamers. They can easily pick up the rules, read the rules, and play it pretty snappily, due to some familiarity with kind of board gaming in general. So my winner of the Family Weight Game is Manhattan. So believe it or not, this is a game that goes back to the 1990s. It's simple area control, playing cards, putting these skyscrapers on the board, trying to have the tallest building on the board, trying to have the most buildings on the board, and the most buildings in each region as well. Quite ferocious, you do have to be prepared to have your buildings taken over by other players, because you can actually build on top of other players. So be prepared for that. But the gameplay is so easy to play, and it's just a joy. I really do enjoy this one. And some very tight competition here, where in the second place I had Finca, and in third place I had Ingenious. So let's move on to Cooperative Game of the Year. Now, I haven't played many co-op games. Generally, I'm not a big fan of co-op games, so maybe in the future I will look to get rid of this particular award. But at number one, I have Lock. So Lock is actually a game where you can play in different game modes. You can play competitively or cooperatively. It's a party game, quite a familiar style party game, as you are trying to explain things and get your opponents, or sorry, your teammates, to point towards that answer. But this game is different because it comes with restrictions. So it might say, you make your teammates guess this word by only using one-word syllables, that kind of stuff. So very simple party stuff, very accessible. You can play this with anybody, and it's gone down really well with my personal family. Runners up, polar opposite. At number two, we have Tindaya, heavy Euro cooperative game. And at number three, I have Dawn. Dawn does have a traitor element to it, but it's the most co-op game I could think of to put in this category. Next up, I have the Hidden Gem of the Year. So what I mean by this, these are games that I don't think are immensely popular. I don't really hear anybody talking about them. I never see pictures of them online, this kind of stuff. Of course, that is from my lens, my perspective, so maybe use your own discretion if these are hidden gems or not. But at number one, I have World Exchangers by Emperor S4. Very simple economic game as you're plotting up this graph of your profits and losses, trying to hit these checkpoints and trying to multiply the different checkpoints you've got by the buildings you own at the end of the game. Wonderful stuff, and a great economic game that you can play in, again, 20 to 30 minutes, which is fantastic. Runners up, I have Wizards of the Grimoire and also Royal Realms, almost unknown game there. Next up, I have the Card Game of the Year. And at number one, I have Forest Shuffle. Forest Shuffle is a 2023 release, and it goes without saying, these games are not necessarily 2023 releases. They are games that are new to me in 2023. But yeah, Forest Shuffle, great set collection game, building up a huge tableau of these cards, tucking them beneath them, scoring as many combos as you can. Love it. Runner-up, very close runner-up, at number two was Nar, which is another 2023 game, believe it or not. And at number three, I had Dragon Keepers, which is another 2023 game. So 2023 has been a very strong year for card games, in my opinion. Next category was Best Artwork, very subjective award. At number one, the winner is Elysium. So another older card game, a drafting style game. I love this kind of classical art style, and tons of different artists actually came and contributed to this game, so it has a very nice table presence. Runners-up being Cuba, simply because of the amazing looking board, and also another runner-up award for NAR. I love the art style for NAR. Next up, I have the unique or innovative game of the year, and the winner of that award is First Contact. So First Contact is like a team versus team deduction style game with limited communication as you're trying to decipher this language by basically decoding these different symbols and what words they associate to. Fascinating stuff, and I'm really looking forward to trying more and more of this one. Runner-ups being the Tower of Babel, and number 3, The Number. Next up, with Pleasant Surprise of the Year. So these are games that I wasn't necessarily expecting to like, or at least not as much as I did. So number 1, the winner of this award was a complete no-brainer for me. That is Wizards of the Grimoire. So this was runner-up in my hidden gem of the year. But Wizards of the Grimoire is a head-to-head kind of dueling style game, as you're just casting spells on each other, trying to deplete each other's health. Now, on paper, I hate those styles of games. This one is amazing. So you are basically managing this magic, which is your currency, to cast these spells. The better spells have longer cooldowns, that kind of stuff. But what I love about this game is the combos. You know, one spell can make another spell better, which can make another spell more efficient, which can hurt your opponent this way or that way, slow them down, make their cooldowns longer, do more damage, and it does have a Euro feel to it. You know, despite being a punch 'em up style game, just trying to bash the hell out of each other, this one is a lot more delicate and more nuanced and more deterministic than the other styles of games in that kind of genre, in my opinion. My runners-up being, at number 2, we had Compromat, kind of a blackjack variant, and also Forever Home at number 3. Next up, we have Filler Game of the Year. Extremely tough competition. It was another win for World Exchanges, another runner-up for NAR, and in third place, the third runner-up was Dragon Keepers. That was a really tough category. I played a lot of filler games this year and a lot of good ones. So World Exchanges just squeaked the win there. Next up, 2-player game of the year, and it's another award for Wizards of the Grimoire. So this game has really done well this year and holding its own in so much competition. A relatively unknown game. I think it's pretty much a small publisher. Again, if you like these styles of games and your tastes align with mine, then I highly recommend you give this game a look, because it's clearly done well. Runners-up being Pinata, an older little tug-of-war style game. And in third place, we have Compromat. Next up, we have Party Game of the Year, and this is a second win for Lock. So as I said, this is the kind of a word association style game that you can play competitively, cooperatively, and it's one of the only games that the entirety of my family will play, which means that I play it regularly. It's a lot of fun. Again, familiar to the older games that you'd probably play in the mass market and kind of expanse. So yeah, this one, it's simple stuff, but it works well for me. Runners-up being Herd Mentality and also Time's Up, which I know this one's a very popular game, but Lock just ticked more boxes for me personally. Okay, so we're into the main 4 categories now, which are Accessible Game of the Year, Intermediate Game of the Year, Advanced Game of the Year, and also Overall Best Game of the Year. So accessible games, now these are games that I categorise as being relatively easy to teach to anybody. The differentiation between this one and the family category was the fact that I said, like, if you were a family and you picked up one of those games, you could learn it yourself and play it quite easily. These ones might have a few little tricks and twists, but still, if someone is teaching it to you, they could probably do it without much difficulty. So without further ado, my favourite accessible game of the year is Chin by Reiner Knizia. A domino style game as you are trying to shed as many of these pagodas as quickly as you can by placing these tiles, creating big groups, connecting them to these cities with a little bit of an area control there as well. It's a truly amazing game. Runner-up being World Exchanges, so another great showing for World Exchanges. And at number 3, I had The Rich and the Good, which is kind of a simple stock manipulation style game. So next up we have the intermediate category. So these are, your next step. The games that aren't terribly bloated, they're not terribly complex or fiddly systems, but they maybe have a bit more weight to the decisions that you're making. And the winner of that category, the intermediate category, is War Chest. War Chest, basically an abstract style game as you're using these military units to move around the board and control regions, but every unit has its own powers and abilities, and it's all about exploiting those abilities as best as you can. It's a work of art, really. Runners-up being Assyria at number 2, and at number 3 we had Rise. Next up we have the advanced category. So these are those more, these more brain burners, the ones with a lot more rules than your average game, and it's going to take a little bit longer to sit down and learn them. And the winner of the advanced category is Darwin's Journey. Quite an involved worker placement style game as you're customizing your workers to activate certain spots on the board, climbing tracks, getting multipliers, all this kind of good stuff that you'd expect from a medium to heavyweight Euro. Runners up being Revive, and also I had Jerusalem at number 3. Jerusalem, I was unsure whether to put this one in the advanced or intermediate category, but I'm quite happy with the advanced. But congratulations to Darwin's Journey, being a colossal hit this year. And finally, the best game of the year is War Chest. So War Chest really did just take my collection by storm. As soon as I got this game, I fell in love with it, playing it again and again and again. Always have the itch to play this one because of the variety of the units. Again, it bridges that gap between being a dry, abstract style game, but with that randomness of the bag building, or that controlled randomness of the bag building, with the variety of the different units, the tension, even a bit of deduction as well. This game is truly fantastic. Runners up being Chin at number 2, and at number 3 I had Assyria. So quite unfortunate that Assyria missed out on 2 awards, being the runner-up of the intermediate game, and also 3rd place in terms of the best game of the year. So that concludes the video. Again, as I said, these are all new to me games. They're not all 2023 releases, which is fairly obvious. But hopefully you have enjoyed the video. If you have, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other content too. And for everybody else, I'll see you next time in 2024 and on Chairman of the Board. Bye-bye.